Hi, everyone. You know, I think it was a bonus question on a fifth grade Purim test. Rav Yonah Monk, who was our Rebbe at the time, looked at us and asked us to find hints to the main players of the Purim story in the Torah. Esther minat Torah minayin. Where is Hester hinted to in the Torah? He showed us that Hashem promised us that there would be times that Hashem would hide his face from us. Anochi haster astir panai. And then he told us that this idea of Hester Panim was not just a phonetical phenomenon, it was a thematic one to Purim, where Hashem's name doesn't appear. He showed us that Mordechai too was referenced in the Torah. Mordechai minat Torah minayin. Diksiv morduror umetargeminan moradachya. That in the context of the preparation of the Ketores, we were told to take certain spices and to utilize them. And like the Ketores, which was made up of many different types of Jews, Rabbi Monk explained, the Purim story too affected all Jews, young and old and male and female. All different types were set for annihilation and were saved. Rabbi Monk then asked us to find Haman in the Torah and to make the theme fit. I wasn't the simplest one in the room, and so with a big bonus question opportunity in my hand, I must have asked one of my siblings and then my parents. My brother knew the reference. After all, he had Rabbi Monk 3 years earlier. And my father, Zichrono Livracha, knew that it was a Gemara. Indeed, the line prior to Rabbi Monk's two examples does note that Haman min haTorah minayin hamin ha'etz, that the Haman is hidden in the Torah and hinted to in the Torah, because it says that after Adam had eaten from the Eitz Hadas, Hashem asked him, Ayeka, where are you? Have you perhaps eaten from the tree? Hamin ha'etz asher tzivisicha lo la'achol mimenu. Did you eat from the tree from which I told you not to eat? The word hamin, perhaps from, is spelled in Hebrew with this hey mem nun, the same letters as Haman. So I got the answer right, or so I thought. Rabbi Monk wasn't as happy. But what's the connection to the Purim story? He asked. He reminded me that the Gemara just doesn't give haphazard vorts that make no sense. And so hence there was a need to find a deeper connection between Gan Eden on the one hand and Haman on the other. And so if that was the case, what was it? And so let's examine the two sides of our comparison. When we think about Haman, we know we're dealing with Amalek. This is the same Amalek about whom the Torah instructs us, Timcha es zecher Amalek mitachas hashamayim lo tishkach. You must obliterate any recollection of Amalek from beneath the heavens. Do not forget. Amalek is the nation who, upon seeing a nation finally freed from the bonds of slavery, takes the initiative of attacking them while they were still weak and feeble. Amalek represents dissension, conflict, strife, and war. And according to our rabbis throughout the generations, Amalek is symbolic of everything bad, evil, and wicked and corrupt. And so as long as Amalek survives, we continue to suffer the consequences. Why? Many years ago, I heard someone explain that there was a good reason for all of this. Namely, because we all have a little bit of Amalek inside each and every one of us. Let me explain. You see, according to the Rebbes and the Kabbalists, man was originally created perfect. He had no innate ability or will to do anything wrong. If man were to sin, it wouldn't be due to any fault from within, but rather to enticement and seduction from without. This was the role of the Nachash, of the original snake. He was the outward manifestation of the Yetzer Hara. You see, once man sinned, however, evil was drawn inside of man. And our task was no longer to resist temptation from outside sources. The enemy had breached the walls. The battle zone was now from within. The tree was inside of us, as was the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. And so again, we have Haman and a tree. Who was Haman? He was a rich and powerful man. In exchange for permission to kill the Jews, Haman offered King Achashverosh a cool 10,000 kikar kesef, kikar of silver. Just to put that economically into perspective, the Jews in the desert were commanded to give a chatzi shekel, a half a silver shekel each. The proceeds of all of these half shekels would be used to purchase communal sacrifices, Karbanos Tzibor, for the entire year, after which a new collection was taken. And in Parshas Pekudei, the Torah gives us a total of the silver collected as a result of the half shekel census, 100 kikar. 1 kikar of gold was enough to fashion the menorah, which stood so tall that Aaron needed to stand upon a ladder just to clean out its lamps. Haman offered 10,000 of those. Haman, then, was no pauper. Haman was also powerful. He ascended to the highest echelons of the Persian Empire, then the most powerful monarchy in the world. Haman himself gives great expression to his tremendous power and wealth. Haman spoke about as Kvod Ashrov, the gloriousness of his wealth, Berov Banav, his many sons, and the fact that he had all the power that the king had granted him, and that he had been elevated above all the officials and royal servants we read in the Megillah. Moreover, Queen Esther invited only me to the banquet that she prepared. And I'm invited again tomorrow together with the king. There was but one singular item which obstructed Haman's bliss, preventing him from reaching the pinnacle of accomplishment and his success. There was one guy, Mordechai, who refused to bow to him. So what do you call a man who has everything? Wealth, power, recognition, with but one tiny little kink in his armor? Haman gives it an expression. All this means nothing to me. Whenever I see that Jew Mordechai sitting at the king's gate, refusing to bow down to me, I have nothing, Haman said. My wealth, my power, my reputation, my family, it's all worthless because it's all flawed. My bliss is therefore incomplete, and so therefore I've got nothing. Come on, Haman. It's all worth nothing to you? The riches, the power, your position, all because one man refuses to recognize you? Perhaps life's not perfect. Maybe something's missing, but nothing? Aren't you exaggerating your situation? No, says Haman. I have nothing, nothing at all. Nothing I have has any meaning because of this one simple imperfection. There's a name I have for such dramatic perfectionists who, no matter how well things may go, and no matter how numerous their gifts, always find something to kvetch about. I usually call them, well, perhaps you and me. It doesn't seem troubling that our focus seems to be constantly fixed on the small imperfection in our lives. If we were to make a list of all the gifts that Hashem gives us on a daily basis, the big and the small and everything in between, and then think of everything missing in our lives, things we really need yet don't have, we would still be overcome with gratitude and joy. And yet, how many times do we allow our concentration during tefillah to be diverted by the most trivial and insignificant matters? I wanted this, I didn't get it, something broke or was lost, so-and-so said such and such. We stand before the Almighty, our lips should ostensibly be overflowing with praise and thanksgiving for all we have. And yet, we've got nothing. We're unable to feel joy and gratitude because something just happened, or is about to happen, or might happen. That's the voice of Haman from within. It's that voice of perfectionism. It's the voice that says, Jose Nenu Shoveli, all this is nothing. Adam too is given a world on a silver platter. There was one thing he couldn't have, the fruit of the tree of knowledge. And yet this was too much to bear. Perhaps from one tree, Hamin, or Haman, Asher tzivisicha lo lechol mimenu achalta, levilti achol mimenu achalta, that perhaps from the one tree, Haman equals Haman, which I commanded you not to eat. Maybe wait from that. The late great Mr. Irv Tobin, alav hashalom, was the exact opposite. From any time I sat with him, looked at him, talked with him, relived his stories with him, or just greeted him, he'd always leave his classic calling card. Hashem is so good to me, he would say. And that was only when he was, and that was not only when he was enjoying life on his many trips and adventures. I remember visiting the guy in the hospital at a more gentrified age, after falling and breaking his clavicle. At which time I asked him if he was in pain. His response, "Look around me," he said. "I've got great service. I've got people waiting on me hand and foot. Hashem's really so good to me." Mr. Tobin, he implanted the roots of his tall tree of life, embedded in the root of Hakaras Hatov, and he saw great sprouts emerge. What a living legend. As we read Parsha Zachor the Shabbos and usher in the days leading towards Purim, the battle is not only against the enemies of the past, but against the voices inside that whisper all or nothing. The mitzvah to erase Amalek is not only historical, it's psychological and spiritual. It means silencing the inner cynic, the inner ingrate, the inner perfectionist who blinds us to blessing. This week, when something goes wrong, pause and answer that question. All this is nothing? Look around, count again, see the Tov. Adam failed at a tree, Haman failed because of a tree, and every one of us stands daily before our own tree. The one thing we don't have, can't control, or wish were different. The question is not whether that tree exists. The question is whether it defines us. If we let the missing branch erase the forest, we live Haman's life. If we cherish the forest despite, or maybe even because of the missing branch, then we live a Torah life. History, Torah, and life are all telling us the same truth. The test is never what you lack, it's what you see. Erase Amalek. Refuse to let one missing branch blind you to an entire forest. Wishing you and yours a Shabbat Shalom and a Purim Sameach to all.